All right, well, good morning, everybody. And Charles here from GSA Insurance Brokers, and extremely pleased and excited to be here with the Panthers coach, Ivan Cleary. Ivan, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Charles. Good to be here, mate.
Yeah, great. Mate, I want to ask you a few things today around managing talented young people. But before we do that, Origin 2, Sunday night, great win for the Blues. What was your take on the game?
Yeah, well, obviously we had a huge Panthers contingent in the game. I include Matt Burton in that. We treat him as one of our own. And obviously Capey in the Queensland team too. So 9 from our grand final team from last year. So I guess to sum it up, I was very invested in the game. Obviously, my son Nathan in there as well.
Had a blinder?
Yeah, look, he went in, he's under a lot of pressure in those games. So it's, because on one side it's the protection mechanism of the parent, hoping that not only they win, because if New South Wales lose, then it's his fault. So that's pretty much how it goes. Which I got to say on Origin 1, I was the most proud was the way he reacted to that game, where it's never. I don't think it's ever one person's fault, but what he did do was he owned the bits that he needed to do better. And he went about, not just playing for New South Wales, he went about it that week for Panthers, the following week, and then, just couldn't have prepared any harder. And results were his team played well and he had a good game. Yeah,
excellent game. And you talk about that parently care, but, I think it was 21 players for the Panthers across all the internationals and things like that over the weekend. How does that make you feel as a coach, knowing, you've got the Roosters coming up this weekend?
Oh, firstly, it's a great feather in the cap for the club that so many players are playing well enough. It's obviously when the team's playing well, individuals get these opportunities as well. So it's a bit of it's a kudos to the person themselves, but also when the team's playing well, it just makes it a lot easier. So I just think it's a great chance for these players to play for their backgrounds, their heritage, particularly their parents and their family. That's really cool. A lot of our boys are doing it for the first time. So, and of course, just Origin itself is such a big deal. It's not just the average person who watches it; everyone watches it. So, it's a great feeling as a coach, but just for the club itself, I think it's a really good milestone for us.
Yeah, I think the key thing you said in there is when things are going well, other opportunities open up, and that's something for young people to understand, is when you put the hard work in and you're performing well, then other opportunities just come by the way, don't they?
Yeah, I think we'll get into it a little bit more in a minute, but I think the concept of team is huge in certainly in our I guess business, and that's what we push a lot. If an individual can put the team first, and then the team can go well, then as an individual you reap the rewards as well.
That's so, right, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you talk about going well, and Panthers, minor premiers 2020, premiers 2021, and leading the pack halfway through. You guys are just on a big momentum roll at the moment. Is it a lot of fun at the moment? Is there a lot of sense of happiness and pleasure around the club at the moment?
Yeah, winning solves everything. So it's definitely a lot of fun, a lot of hard work as well. But there's no in between. You're either winning or you're losing from week to week. And for us to have a lot of wins, not just this year but the last 3 years, it's been amazing. I think one of the things we've done well is that we're not, we don't rest on what we've done or look backwards. We're always looking forwards. And that's what we're still doing. So you mentioned before, we've got the Roosters coming up. Such a blue ribbon club. They've been one of the best clubs in the last at least I suppose 10 years, and even before that, been really strong. So they've got a great roster and always a difficult prospect. So that's our next job. That's our next game. So that's all we're worried about right now.
I wanted to talk about talented young people in the labour market at the moment in general business. There's a lot of businesses struggling to find talented or experienced people. So looking to the youngsters to come through the ranks and really pick up their game and take on opportunities. Average age of the squad's 24, so you're well akin to dealing with these young talented people. what's your kind of ethos around young people and getting the best out of them and keeping them motivated week in and week out?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been doing this I've been a head coach it's my 16th season, so I guess I've sort of seen, a little bit of a change in when I first started, dealing with young people was a little bit more like, this is what you do, and they listen and they do it. And there's
directing traffic, yeah.
Now it's like, look, it's the age of information. Everybody knows everything. Everyone knows everything, and you get a lot more like, well, you need to explain why we're doing things, which, by the way, I think is a good thing. But generally speaking, there's a couple of things that we always sort of work on, and that's I've mentioned before is around team. I think it's a basic human need to want to belong to a community or belong to something bigger than yourself, whether it be family or tribe or community or whatever. So we
talking about
that's
culture,
a big driver.
right? Culture and building that culture of community.
Yeah, well, I think everyone's at their best when they're part of something bigger than themselves. So that's what we drive that. My main job here is just to help create an environment and a culture that a certain way of doing things. And then trying to get everyone, on one thing on board with that, and also on a daily basis making sure, we keep accountable to that. So, sort of mentioned that before, and if that's going well, then it's the opportunity for everyone to feel part of it, which is I think everyone wants to, whether you're young or old or whatever. And then as I said, you got to manage things along the way, and there's so many, it's an old saying, winning doesn't come in a straight line. There's lots of peaks and troughs and whatever, distractions, whatnot, and we just got to try and manage that the best way we can. Yeah,
well, you say there's peaks and troughs, but you haven't lost too many games over the last two. So you're managing that roller coaster really well. And that's something that really fascinates me. A lot of the players are early 20s or even some of them in their teens when you're coming into the first grade squad. And I look at guys like Isaac Targo and Taylor May and what they've done in the season one. Do you give them any extra attention at that age group versus your older heads? When I say older heads, your 28s and 29s and 30s?
Sometimes it's not all about age, but sometimes it is. It's just so many different factors when you got people involved. So, sometimes experienced guys still need a bit of love and a bit of attention, whereas some young guys actually, don't need much. It just depends on their personality and where they've come from, and so there's a lot of different ways we need to try and manage each guy. But again, it'll all start from what we value as a team, a certain way of doing things, and if anyone can, as long as you can, aligned with that, then you can be whoever you want.
Yeah.
You can be your own personality, older, younger, whatever. Younger guys definitely, there's more distractions and there's more as they sort of navigate their way through their career. Couple of guys you mentioned, so Taylor and Isaac, they would all of a sudden they're like, people see them in the streets or they're getting more likes on Instagram or whatever. And
that's the measure of success these days, isn't it?
You know what? You have no experience with that. People can maybe say, oh, hey, this might happen, but until you go through that. So that's like you say, we haven't lost a lot, but that's on the weekends. So, but there's lots of little peaks and troughs through the week as well, and what's going on. That's sort of, I guess that's like the way we like to approach things. It's a daily, almost like hourly, checklist of everyone going okay. They say it's checking the temperature of the building. Is everyone, are we on task or are we drifting off or whatever?
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. What sort of percentage of your time gets spent between coaching, as in strategy and structures and skills, versus man management, motivating staff, educating, checking in just to see if they're okay?
Yeah. Well, over the years, it's definitely changed for me. I started like everyone else. Coaching lower grades, being an assistant coach. So it's all about the game and tactics and. Burying your head in video and cutting stuff up.
Is that the player hat a little bit coming out there as well?
Yeah, probably. It's probably just when you think of coaching at that point, that's what you think of, being, teaching and all that stuff. And gradually over time, that's what you have assistants for, So, and I've been, I've got way better at delegating.
Yep.
That's a really hard skill. And you can only really do it if you trust the people that you have. So it's, getting people, not just players but staff, that you can trust. Trust as people first and foremost, but trust from a skill point of view as well. I've been able to do that, and which means then I can, sort of, I guess, get in the helicopter, which I'm, way better at. And I spend, much more time doing that, which is, I guess, allows you to see stuff that that may fall through the cracks.
Yeah, you talk about a lot of key words there, trust, integrity, and things like that. And, GSA has been built on that, and I've got our little blue book here, which is our book of culture, and it very clearly outlines who we are as a company and, what we want to be. And we've stuck with that for 30 years. Are there sort of key sayings and mottos that you have within the team that are those little reminders about what those values stand for, or is it just living them as opposed to talking about them?
I've never really been a big fan of words on the wall, so to speak.
Yep.
I think you need to, I think that's a cool idea, the book, but essentially I think it's got to be done, I think anyway, it's culture and values need to be done in a way where people know them off by heart, or know, most of them, or generally speaking, how it should look. That's something I kind of refined over the last 5 years or so. Whereas, when I first sort of started the culture thing, I was like, well, it's kind of like a organic thing, but then I thought, well, no, I need to actually define what it is and articulate. So I've done that, and then when I first did it, I knew it, but if I was really honest, if I asked one of the boys, I don't think they would have been able to answer it, which means like, okay, I've got to refine it even more, and then just drive it all the time. So that's what we've done. So I think they kind of get it. The guys have been here long enough, and the new guys, we've just got to try and, and that's just the way, as a leader, that's why, I've got to drive it, talk about it, chop those words in all the time as much as you can. So it becomes ingrained.
We call it a feel. People come into our office and they say, you can feel it, there's something special about this place, there's a vibe, there's an atmosphere here where everyone's working together, and you guys certainly seem to have that. What is the single biggest challenge for you as a coach, or as a mentor, even in many respects, what you're talking about, of coming in and doing this day after day? What do you find hardest personally about keeping that momentum and motivation alive?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things, a lot of challenges. I mentioned distractions before. There's a lot of, like, when you have the boys first, it's not really that long, and then they go outside and they have influences through, their family, their agent, their friends, social media, which is like, that's a whole new world that.
Trying to keep my kids off it. I know the feeling. Don't worry.
Good luck. Yeah. So you can just imagine how, like, the ease that they could be influenced. When they sign bigger contracts, you got more money, life changes. So that's a challenge. Just trying to mix it up as well. Like, there's a real balance what we do between, consistency is like such a big deal, and you can't be consistent if you are doing different stuff all the time. Your values come in and out, so it's a real challenge to be able to go, right, we're going to be doing pretty much the same stuff every day, but it's got to seem like it's different. It's got to seem like there's just some little, I've got my assistant coaches are awesome at that, just mixing it up, using some humour. We do that a fair bit, actually. We try and, make the boys laugh as much as we can. Just stuff like that. They come in and go, wow, what are we going to get today? But it's still the same values, the same way to behave, the same way we train. So I suppose that's probably the biggest challenge. Yeah,
you should try processing insurance policies, mate, and then try and talk about mixing things up. No, you're right. Look, over COVID, especially, that hit hard in the business sector where people work from home. So, to our credit, our staff, without any sort of management requirement, sort of created a wellness committee and created all these little initiatives to send out fruit baskets and, arrange video calls and create some funny comedy between themselves to try and change it up and make sure people were, staying mentally fresh and keeping the spirits up. And it was a really exciting part of the business.
While we're on that, like when in 2020, where our little sort of successful period started, the competition stopped after 2 rounds. So we had 6, I think it was about 6 weeks, where we were from home, and that's where we were doing lots of WhatsApp stuff. Like, we were doing Zooms. once a week, and the boys were like dressing up and doing all this stuff, and that's kind of like, that was like a little period where I reckon we did that. If someone did it better than us, I'd love to see it. So when we came back, we were just like flying, you know. So that was actually a little period that I think helped galvanise our group.
You've obviously got a big culture around attracting and bringing staff through the ranks, but that can lead to inexperience at times. Is that where you kind of use your recruitment strategy to try and bring in some older heads and maybe some more experience to try and balance it out a little bit?
Yeah, so our mandate as a club is to grow our own, build from within.
Yeah.
And we'll only recruit where, either we don't have a certain, skill set or player, or, as you said, you can't be forever young, you know. So that's what we've been trying to do. A couple of years ago, we had a really good little year where we signed Appy Coruscant, Kurt Capewell, and Zaid Tedovano. They were our 3 signings, and they were all crucial in different ways as to how that could help us. Zane was only here for a year, but he changed the whole way that we train, just in terms of intensity.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, Zane's he's a super intense guy. He was known as the minister of intensity around here. And that you know what, the boys picked his legacy up and still going on with that today. Appy's still here. KP's gone on to bigger and better, not better, big things at the Broncos, and he became an Origin player while he was here too. And Appy's done the same thing, so that's been really cool. But the benefits of that is that we talk about culture. Like if you bring in young guys through, that gets ingrained in them early. Whereas if you're getting guys from outside, they know a certain way. And especially if they're a bit older, sometimes that's a little bit harder for them to change their ways or whatever. But if you do it right, I think you can do it. But that's probably the benefits and I suppose disadvantages. Sometimes you got to retrain people or whatever, and they might have done. You look at them and they've done something like an awesome. They've been incredibly successful. There's nothing wrong with how they do it, but if you could do things a certain way and they come in and they go, it's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes, So that would be, I guess that's the benefits and and I suppose the other problem with young guys is, as you said, you can't have the whole team being young.
Yeah.
What we're getting now is that we're starting to get some of these young guys are now getting their experience. So, Isaiah Yeo, who's still only 27, I think.
27, yeah.
It's like 47, but he's 27. Played like maybe 170 games or something. Nathan's like 24, but he's played 130 games. We've got a bunch of these guys that are now they're not old, but they've got enough experience and they know our way, so they can pass it on to others. So
keep the culture strong, but sometimes bringing in outside for new ideas or new experience can actually add to what you're trying to build overall. Yeah,
that's the other thing. Sometimes a bit of fresh energy is is really good, really necessary. So that's part of it too.
Thanks very much, Ivan. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've chewed the fat a little bit here and got some insight into what you've been doing really well here and why the Panthers have been on a good journey. I'm sure in your eyes there's still plenty of work to be done, and dynasties and things like that are what coaches all try and sort of achieve, and you guys are 3 years into making, so good luck for the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. You're right. It's I feel like we haven't really achieved anything yet, so come back in about 7 or 8 years and see how we're going then. So.
Well, hopefully the GSA Panthers partnership is still going strong then, and we'll be able to have that exact conversation. So thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thanks,
Cheers.
Charles.